Hello everyone, depending on what time it is for you right now. By a whopping 69% somehow, Surgon won. I can both understand and not understand why, but the more I kind of played him today as I edit this recording, the more I understand, yeah, I see why people are confused. So this video is more of like a teaching and learning process for myself, and I want everybody to be able to understand what I went through with this experience to understand Surgon. And also I want y'all to note too, I haven't really capable him yet. He's on, I believe, as of currently level 8, so he's 2 from capable. So yeah, I just want to be completely honest about that, because I don't have every killer capable and I'm not persistence. Also, congratulations to the goat and happy birthday, my goat. His birthday was a day ago, but that's off topic. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and read over his stats and everything like normal, and we go get into it. His stats are actually pretty insane. He's probably one of the lowest speeds. Maybe not exactly, but he's on the pretty lower speed side. His fear radius, I keep calling it terror radius, but his fear radius is huge. Essentially, like, it's a humongous terror radius. I think it's bigger than Banshee's. But the key takeaway is that his lunge is pretty big, and that he's a 5 difficulty, so it takes, like, his kit in retrospect is easy, but it's hard to master and hard to really gripe and understand. And I'll go over that more with his passive and his active. Before I tackle his passive, his active is called Swift Strikes. So essentially what he can do when he hits his active ability button is that he will have an empowered hit, and it will be keyed on his weapon of choice. You'll be able to see the effect on it. And for every empowered hit you make up to a max of 13, you will gain a stack of Swift. Swift increases your lunge speed by 0.8. So if you were to multiply, let's say if you were to multiply 8 by 12, that would be, I'm trying to do my math. 8 by 8, that's 64. 64 plus 8, that's 72. 72, that's 72 plus 8, 90. So, hold on, I actually gotta do math. Okay, I apologize, I did my math. So if you were to hit your max of 13 stacks, you would be 10.4. You would have like a 10.4 lunge speed, or like you would be that much faster. It's actually insane how fast you can get. Like, if you've ever seen a Surgon with 11 stacks, that thing is mortifying. You will be scared. But essentially, you can't get an empowered hit if you don't use your empowered ability. You won't get an extra stack of Swift if you don't have empowered on. And when you successfully get an empowered hit, it's a 45-second cooldown. If you are unsuccessful, it's a 10-second. It's kind of gracious, thankfully. And when they get hit, they are also affected by Mangled, which is in his passive. His passive is called Surgical Precision. So essentially what happens is survivors, when they get down by him, whether he has an empowered hit or not, they start at 75 bleed out. So that's about a quarter of your bleed out taken automatically without fail. When you are mangled and he gets his Swift stack and you're down by the empowered hit, you bleed out 35% faster. So if you're a survivor, you really have to prioritize saves. If you're killer and everybody's in the same area, you really want to hold that spot and make sure nobody leaves. That, or just make sure your enemy bleeds out and dies. In GTA, of course, because I don't want YouTube to be me. And when they are hit with Mangled as well, they permanently, I will repeat, they permanently, for the rest of the match, lose 0.5 of their move speed. It can only happen once. If they get mangled again, it won't work. They can only lose 0.5 of their move speed once, the survivors. So, like, if you do this to a looper, or especially a gen rusher or a healer, this is like heaven for you. So, as Surgon, funny enough, you really have to understand your numbers, and you really need to be aware of your distance as well. And I can actually go into tips now, which is the fun part. this is the fun part where y'all get to hear me ramble. Oh, and I died. That was really embarrassing. But Surgon's kind of a wild card, because when you play him, okay, let me go deeper. Normally, for most people, especially veterans who played Daybreak Killer, you really want to wait until the right time to hit, so then you don't get slowed down by your missed attack speed and lose your survivor. But with Surgon and his swift stacks, you need to... These jets are gonna kill me. You really need to not be afraid to swing. I've had my friends stick that in my mind, like, probably twice. You cannot be afraid to lunge as a Surgon, because that's the only way you're going to be able to get more stacks for your ability. That's the only way you're going to be able to lunge faster. Successful Surgon players are not afraid to go for a lunge. Ambitious or not, because if they make it, they make it. If they don't, they don't. Your entire kit, the game and the way survivors play and react is based off of your lunge. If they know that you have higher stacks, they're going to use up more of their stamina. If they know you have less stacks, they won't. At least if they're smart. So when it comes to that too, when you hit 3 to 4, mainly 4 stacks worth of Swift, every basic loop, like the car loops and cliff mac, the tree loops and the log loops, those are all completely unsafe. Pretty much 75% of the loops in the game are unsafe when Surgon has 4 stacks or more. If he has 6 to 11 stacks, you're done. You're dead. No matter what, you're dead. Like, if he has 6 to 9 stacks, basically every loop is closed. You're like, except for drop downs, you are like done for. The survivor will be done for, and it will be your uprising. Excuse me. If he has like 9 to 12 stacks, oh yeah, no, game over. You're done for. If he has that many, you're actually done. There should be no reason why y'all are still trying at that point, because you as a Surgon, oh yeah, baby, they're done. They're done for. There's no winning that. A Surgon with 12 stacks, game over. And in terms of who you counter, you basically counter healers. Because when there is an Iris in-game, Iris counters her entire team if she plays normally with a Surgon in-game. Because when Iris gives more people more lives, excuse me, that means Surgon can get more empowered stacks. Therefore, by Surgon keeping the Iris alive, he gets more stacks, his lunge is faster, his lunge is longer. And so you kind of have to abandon a lot of basic playing Daybreak Killer norms as Surgon, because if you play it as you normally would, you're kind of wasting potential stacks. And Surgon is all about getting everything early game. Like, your early game has to be really strong, and you really gotta you really need to hone in on getting at least 3 to 4 stacks early game before 2 to 3 gens pop. If you don't have 4 stacks by the time 3 gens pop, you're done. By far. Like, if you make a comeback from that, it's a miracle. Well, no, I don't want to say it's a miracle. If you come back from that, good on you. You realize your mistake. But if you don't have 4 to 5 stacks by the time 3 gens pop, 9 times out of 10, it's going to either be a tie or a loss, unfortunately. And aside from keeping the Iris alive and not being afraid to lunge, you also have to be, if you can make an estimate of how long your lunge actually is, that's another good way to conserve but still use your lunge and take advantage of it. You also want to make sure, especially during endgame, if you know you can get a win, you want to hold survivors, like the down survivors, where they are. So TLDR, basically proxying, which I'm normally against, but if you're a Surgon and you're trying to win at endgame, especially on larger maps, that's gonna help you a lot. It's great. For maps, I'd say your best bet is indoor maps. Roanoke isn't that bad either. Empire also isn't bad, but in Cliffmac 2, Cliffmac is actually pretty good. I'd say the maps that you don't want to play him on are Clearwater and Dawnwood. Clearwater and Dawnwood, you don't want to play him on those maps mainly, but I'm not saying that you don't have to. I'm just saying that you may not be as successful if you play him on those maps. But every other map, yeah, go ahead. He's fine. Especially indoor. I love playing him on Haverhill and Cliffmac, actually. Funny enough. Returning to counters. Some I forgot to mention. Basically anybody with a protection hit counters you. You counter healers, but people with protection hits can potentially counter you, because if you don't pay attention and you try to empower hit a survivor with a protection hit, so say Nathan, Riley, Jun, Lyndon when he protects a survivor, Arlo shield, and Euronica shield, and Amon shield even. When you hit their shield with empowered hit, it still counts as if you were to get a normal empowered hit. So you're going to go on your 45 cooldown and then be standing there with the ability to hit them without your empowered hit button. So if you know a survivor has a protection hit, or if you are aware that a Lyndon is in game, that spin was actually so funny. We were on call when that spin happened, and we were both so confused. Anyway. Yeah, so just be very patient. You have to have patience. If you aren't patient with, you have to be patient with this, especially with Werewolf 2. Ooh, you gotta be patient. Surgeon's kit fits his character really well. You have to be patient. You have to be methodical. You have to understand your numbers. You have to understand your kit. All that fun stuff. But another thing too that I had attention brought to by my friend as well. When you use his normal knife, his I think it's a bone saw. It's the way he swings, the hitbox is actually extended at the back of the weapon instead of the front. So it's much harder for people to 360. So if you ever see a survivor 360 directly in front of you, just slap your lunge and it'll hit them with the back of the knife. It's actually so crazy. I don't know why it's like that, but Roblox hitboxes, Daybreak hitboxes, you kind of get my drift. One thing too that you don't necessarily have to be afraid of, but just be aware of, is I-Frames. Mamo I-Frames really suck. If you try to empower hit her when she hits you, it'll cancel out your empowered hit, or I believe it'll count as if you actually down the survivor, so you'll get your 45, which is very inconvenient given the situation. I believe Kyle trap I-Frames could affect it, but it really depends on the amount of time your lunge animation has been playing for. I don't think, if you're like directly up against Kyle when you use your empowered hit, it'll probably still down him 9 times out of 10, but that's still something you need to keep an eye out for. Elijah's would probably cancel it into a 10-second. I can't remember exactly, so don't quote me on that, but it will cancel it one way or another, whether it's the 45 or the 10, but I'm almost positive it'll be the 10. And all of that fun stuff. So now what we're going to do is go over his backstory. I'm going to condense it in the easiest ways possible. To really put it kind of short-ish, Christoph was just kind of this rich kid that grew up in Berlin and didn't really get as much attention. They'd only really acknowledge him by a pat on the back, quote unquote, or just kind of like showing their face. They never really gave him a gift or anything. So it's like child neglect, but not child neglect. So he aspired to become a doctor. Well, no, a surgeon, excuse me. But he didn't just want to be a surgeon. He wanted to be a well-known surgeon. Like, he wanted to see his name and he wanted to feel good hearing his name. Pause on that, by the way. So I don't remember if it was before or after medical school. No. When he went to medical school, he moved from Berlin to the United States. So Germany to the United States of America. And he did his classes and he took his medical school up until years later. He built a name for himself, aka Christoph Hoffman. And he became the quote unquote the expert surgeon. And so what had happened at his job or on an outing, he met Arlo, which, if you didn't know, was a character really put on Daybreak on release. He's been in Daybreak since the birth of it. He's been through a lot of phases. He's also been through a lot of boyfriends, which we will get into later, unfortunately. So Christoph saw Arlo as more of not an alumni, but as an apprentice. And he was an apprentice for him. He actually worked as a nurse under him. And so because Christoph was kind of a prick, he was rich, he wanted to make a name for himself, he did make a name for himself. And he wanted to be the one to tell people what to do rather than doing what people tell him to do. He was really upset and angered when Arlo was having a fight with his ex Jackson. They got together and broke up twice, which is, I don't want to say it's unrealistic because people do this all the time, but it's still kind of sad or whatever. And so when Arlo got taken by the mist after he broke up with Jackson for the second time, Surgon did the unlawful thing and went up to his house and KO'd the guy. I don't know if I can say the other word on YouTube, but yeah, bro got Kamehameha'd, and he also got taken by the mist after that. At least Surgon did. So if Arlo would have never been taken by the mist, Surgon would have never been taken into the mist either. He would have never killed Jackson. And it's also kind of funny too, because he's also aware that that Arlo's dating Kelvin now. Which, no, I'm not going to do that because I'm going to get biased. But, yeah. That's the easiest way I can explain it. Spoiled, rich, gotcha kid gets neglected by his parents. He wants to be a doctor and control people because he's probably not, but maybe a sociopath. Flies from Berlin up to the United States of America, gets a doctorate, makes a name for himself, becomes a famous expert surgeon, has Arlo as his apprentice. Arlo's gay. Whoa! He keeps breaking up with this one guy. Arlo goes missing and gets taken by the mist. Surgon, his bum self, goes up to Jackson's house and be like, hey, yo, Pierre, can I come out here? Okay, you come out here. And bro's like, yeah, and comes out the door, or he goes in. Surgon KOs him. Surgon gets taken by the mist. That's just an easy TLDR. I'm gonna go ahead and just explain the gameplay now that I had on Gaikahara this evening. Let's get into it. If I remember correctly with this game, I either got a 6K or I got a full K, but this Callum doubled back a lot. And I already have my 1 stack at this point, so I'm halfly committing to here. They basically persistent. I don't know why you did that, by the way. Got the Taylor farm, so I already have my first gen rusher out, and I only have 1 empowered stack. And I'm just trying to hold for as long as I can. I have a mental timer in my head, but I see Becca, aka Ink, down the way, and I'm like, oh yeah, I want to get Becca early, because at that point I can still detect her most of the time. And so I'm just trying to really tech right now. I've been practicing that pan vault. Like, you have to really have a good reaction time. Elijah stuns me. I don't feel like detecting because I want the Becca, and so I wait for my empowered hit. You'll see a lot of surgeons do this. Well, they'll be like right up against the survivor and they wait for their empowered hit to go off cooldown for them to hit the survivor. It's just the easier way to guarantee stacks. And so I go ahead and chase the Sarah, who's looping me around midstone. I see Elijah just sitting there, and the Callum's attempting to heal, so I try to hold the down, because keep in mind, they start off at 75% bleed out, but they bleed out 35% faster with Mangled. So that Becca is on like the ER bed right now, and I'm super duper proud of that mind game, by the way. Usually that doesn't work for the people I do it on. I missed that because I get outrun by a Sarah. Keep in mind, 5.5 speed. Sarah's like, I think at 8 or 9 speed. And I commit to this Sarah a little bit. I thought she would vault back into me, but she didn't. So I hold this for a split second still. just waiting for the Becca to get up. I haven't processed that Becca was up yet, but once I hear them down there, I see the Kyle, I go ahead and drop down. And now I end up chasing the Kyle for a short period of time because I want my empowered back. He doesn't vault that, places a trap before I can even process it. Reaction time. And I go ahead and hold the Kyle for a while. Just sort of running on in, running on in, running on, running on, running on in, running on in, running on in, running on, running on, running on in. Going ahead and detect. I want whoever is on that gen down there. I forget that my terror radius, my fear radius is humongous. So doing that will not work. But I still want this gen kicked anyway. And I'm looking to see if they hid anywhere. But they are not, I don't believe. So I go ahead and tunnel this AG for a little while. He cameras again. I don't have my detect, so I can't counter that. So I just go ahead and chase another person. Excuse me. I saw that the Callum was over here earlier, so I'm actively looking for him. And just sort of standing there. I don't understand why people do that. If you want to confirm where a killer is, you can do it out of sight. I assume that this person's going to vault back into me again, but they don't, so I go ahead and chase them down this way. That alleyway is a death sentence if Surgon has 4 to 6 stacks. But because I only have 2, I'm really thugging it out right now. She vaults back into me, and I go ahead and down her. What's so weird about that, too, is it's this weird habit I developed, where if a survivor is in front of me and tries to 360 back into me, keep in mind that the back of the knife has a bigger hitbox than the front. So I hit my left mouse button before I vaulted, which means I downed her as I was vaulting. I should have been able to vault right there, but I couldn't. And I'm tunneling Sarah for a while again. When I put wasted, that was in for me. That was not for the survivor. But I break off chase because that Sarah hasn't been down once yet, even though it'd be nice to get a stack off of her. There's 3 gens left and 5 survivors. I really needed to clutch in right now. So this is what I mean by if you don't, and there's my 4th stack. This is what I mean by if you don't have 4 stacks by the time there's 3 gens left, you're really gonna have to choke to get the win that you aspire to get. I missed that by a long shot. I'm like really being ambitious with that lunge at that moment. And I keep going, I keep going, I keep going. And I hit him right before he vaults. And then I see another person in the distance and I'm like, ooh, who is this? And I immediately lose them somehow. I have no idea to this day where they went. They just sort of came in and disappeared into the mist. New character just goes completely invisible. So now I'm coming down here. Euronica's AFK apparently. So I just bonk, gone. And I'm looking for another survivor. Because I have 5 empowered stacks. So I've pretty much closed down 75% of the loops by now. Like that one loop right there that I'm facing to my right. Evil. Done. Anything up there is kind of sort of safe, but they have to be a good amount of studs in front of me. And by a good amount, I mean like a hefty amount, like maybe 15 to 20 or so. And I try to figure out who I'm going to tunnel. I ignore the AG because I want this Sarah. I'm pretty sure I break off chase here after a while too, because that 5.5 is not going to help me. I try to do that one tech where I'm lunging into the vault. But normally I don't like lunging before I vault because you're still going to get the slow after you vault. Yeah. But yeah, now I'm committing to the AG again. He's waiting to flash me, but I don't let him. Go ahead and kick my gen and try to tunnel this Kyle for a while. Again, I break off chase. I'm really trying to apply pressure to everybody in this game. Bad trap again. I missed that somehow. And so I'm going ahead and telling him again. I'm waiting for my empower hit to go off a cooldown. And once it goes off cooldown, boom, dead. 6 stacks. Everything's over. 90% of loops are closed. All of those ones with the little arch, gone. Those little ones at roundabout, dead. You're done for over those. Even that god loop at docks, I believe that's what it's called, unsafe. Everything is pretty much unsafe now that I have 6 stacks. 90% of it at least. The Sironica tries to camouflage in here, but I have 1 graphics and I saw them, so they're dead. 1 gen left, 3 survivors alive. I pretty much have my win at that point, so I'm going to close my mouth and let y'all watch the rest. Love y'all. Stay creative. Peace.
This is a certified classic.